I served as an Army Calvary Scout from 1984 until 1988. I had a break in service, and then I re-enlisted and served again from 1990 to 1993. I've been teaching yoga for a few years now, and I've been involved with the Veterans Yoga Project for about I guess a year and a half now. I do teach a little bit of yoga, mostly in a behavioral health setting. My intention for this class is just that basic class, fairly gentle, and maybe 45, 50 minutes of movement, and then a guided meditation at the end, a relaxation meditation at the end. And as we begin, I like to, my classes at the hospital, let everybody know that the only way to get any of this stuff wrong is if it hurts. So it's all good. Go for what you want to, and you don't have to do anything that you're not comfortable with. I like to begin by finding a stable way to interact with the support underneath me. So that usually a good way to do that is to notice my feet. So if you want to join me in standing, noticing the feet. Sometimes a good way to direct the attention towards the feet is just to rock back and forth a little bit. And notice as you're rocking forward, how it feels the front part of your feet, weight shifting, and then rocking back, weight shifts the heels. Just do that a few times and allow the body to center itself. It's got a balance reflex, so it'll come to center fairly well. And then another thing I like to do is to kind of notice my feet, placing my hands on my kneecaps and then rotating the kneecaps in and out. So this is actually rotating the thigh bones internally and then externally in the hip socket. But if you give this a try, when the kneecaps are pointing towards each other, the thigh bones internally rotating, you might feel your big toe knuckles pushing down. And then with the external rotation, the kind of weight moves out towards the outside edge of the feet. And then let that go. So noticing the feet and just letting the weight be distributed between the front and the back and the inside and the outside. Okay, and then I move from here to warming the spine up. A good way to start with that, I like to do some gentle twisting. Of course, you get to figure out how much movement you want to do, how quickly you want to move. As you're moving, notice where you're feeling the muscle stretching. Also, try to keep some attention to how your feet feel on the ground. We can kind of maybe transition to side bending. Move back and forth. Perhaps hold on one side for a breath or two, and then shift to the other side, whatever works for you. Then maybe a back bend, and a way to get into a back bend here, rather than moving the spine side to side, we'll kind of stretch it out front and back, bring the hands to the small of the back, and then pull the elbows in towards each other. That'll open up the top of the rib cage, push the hips forward, and that'll help stretch out the front side of the body. And you try and lengthen the spine, pull the crown of the head away from the tailbone. And if you want to look up and back, leaning back, I'm close to a wall. And just because it's here, I'm going to let the wall help me out. Then stand back up. Let the blood come back to your brain. Okay, and then maybe counterpose by folding forward. Now, push down on the big toes. Try to keep that distance from the crown of the head and the tailbone, really lengthening the spine. Hinge forward at the hips. Okay, if it works for you, another alternative might be to bend at the knees, bring the forearms onto the tops of the thighs. Maybe drop one shoulder at a time, stretch the back out. Of course, another option is to bring the hands to the floor. If you have blocks available, whatever setting works for you, you can raise the floor to your hands. Find a comfortable place. Take a few deep breaths and just allow the muscles in the back to relax and lengthen. And slight bend in the knees. Come back up. Roll the shoulders out a little bit. Maybe do some head rolls. Warming up the spine, the neck. It's part of the spine, the cervical section of the spine. Sometimes I like to stretch the neck out. I'm going to spin around so that folks can see what I'm doing with my hands. So to stretch out the big muscles that connect the base of the neck to the shoulders, I'm going to take my left hand and grab my left wrist with my right hand. Stand up tall here. Crown of the skull pulling away from the tailbone, and I'm going to hug the arm over to the side. And that's going to drop this left shoulder a little bit. And I'm going to tilt my right ear to my right shoulder. And noticing a stretch on the left side of my neck, hugging and tilting here. And then I'm going to twist my chin, tip of the chin twisting over to the right shoulder. And just for a moment, breath or two here, letting that stretch out. And I'm going to shake that out and do the other side. Right hand behind the back. I'm going to grab onto the right wrist with the left hand. Hug the arm over to the side. Stand up tall. Right shoulder drops a bit. I'm going to tilt my left ear to my left shoulder. Notice a stretch on the right side of my neck. And then twist the tip of the chin over to maybe touch the left shoulder. Wall up tight. Roll that out. Okay. And maybe bend the knees enough to be able to bring the hands down to the ground and possibly bring the hands, palms facing up underneath the feet. Toes come up to the wrist crease. So I got my generous bend in the knees here. And then I'm going to push down on the big toe mounds, internally rotating my thigh bones to get the big toe mounds to push down. And at the same time, I'm extending my knees, straightening my legs, pulling on the hands, and using the feet. Press down on the palms at the same time. Get a little bit of a stretch in the calves, my lower back. Pull forward. Okay, come out of that. Big bend in the knees. Standing up. Straightening that out. So let's start by loosening up the spine and just kind of conceptualizing the alignment here. So thinking about the crown of the skull and the tailbone being 2 points and just trying to draw a straight line between those 2 points. So this imaginary axis of the spine, and drawing a line between the shoulders. So the shoulder girdle, and that's another line, kind of at right angles. And then through the third imaginary line through the hips. So I've got this vertical line that's crossed by these 2 horizontal lines. I want to try and notice where my shoulders are, notice where my hips are relative to the axis of my spine, and kind of good alignment. When you've got good alignment, you're stable. Okay, feet on the ground, good stable alignment. And a rule of thumb, shoulder line over the hip line. And move to doing some sun salutations. I'm going to come to the front of the mat. And this is a series of postures linked together with the breath. We'll now work through it one by one to begin. The first movement's an inhale. Stretch out. And then the next movement on the exhale, bring the hands down to the ground. The next inhale, straighten the back. And then we're going to exhale to come to the top of the push-up. Take a breath here at the top of the push-up. Inhaling and then exhale. Down to the belly. Inhale to use the big muscles in the back to feel the shoulders up. Exhale back down. I'm going to inhale to the top of a push-up. And then exhale. Raise the hips and make an upside down V. And depending on how tight you are at the back of the legs, you might want to bend your knees. If you want to work towards bringing the heels to the mat, you might feel a stretch in the back of the legs. Try, though, in your mind's eye, to draw a straight line from your wrists towards your hips Okay, we'll take a few breaths here in this shape. Up the legs, maybe, if that works for you. And then either stepping or hopping will bring the feet between the hands again. Inhale to straighten your back. Exhale to bend forward. Inhale up. Okay, exhale. Hands come through center. Let the arms rest to the side, and then take a breath or two to find the alignment again. We'll go through that series a couple more times. We'll clean it up a little bit. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands down. Inhale to straighten the back. And then we're going to, from here, on an exhale, come all the way to the bottom of a push-up. And then inhale to the back bend. And exhale to the upside down V. Take a few breaths here. Let the back side of the body stretch out. Maybe pump the legs. Bring the feet between the hands. Inhale, straighten the back. Exhale, and forward. Inhale up. Exhale, hands through center, rest at the side. Find your alignment, find your feet. Take a breath. I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time. You're welcome to join me. Whatever way works for you. If you'd like to experiment, maybe try that with your eyes closed. Whatever pace, I'm going to inhale, exhale. Inhale. Inhale. And all meet up at the front of the mat. And then we'll go back to that upside down V shape again and meet there. However you'd like to get there. Okay, so from the upside down V shape, if you take your right foot and just kind of point the toes out towards the edge of the mat, at a slight angle, then we're going to bring the left foot forward up towards the left wrist. Push down on both feet. And then go ahead and bring the torso up. This is a shape, pose, asana, sometimes referred to as warrior one. We want to have the feet on the ground. So however you're placing your feet, find a good place so that you can have the back edge, the outside edge of the back foot down, and the whole front foot down. So whatever works for you as far as how far your feet are. And then here for this one, for alignment's sake. Okay, we want to draw those 3 lines again. Crown of the head generally over the tailbone, shoulders generally over the hips. But we want the hips and the shoulders square to the short edge of the mat if we're facing this way. Okay. And then raise the arms. Now, how we build these shapes. And the first thing, right, is getting stable. So that's where we're planting our feet and how we're lining our spine and our hips and our shoulders. Once we get a good stable position, then we can kind of work into relaxing in the shape by using the breath. So get nice and steady. When you're steady, it helps to relax. Use the breath. And then, once you've got the breath moving, focus on which muscles are doing the work and which muscles you can allow to let go. So notice how you're feeling. Notice where you're engaged, which muscles are stretching, how that feels. And then just kind of let that happen. Okay, and then what we can do, move around a little bit, bring the arms down. We're going to bring the right arm forward and left arm back for a twist. Maybe looking over the back thumb and perhaps bringing the left hand back of the right thigh, looking up the right thumb, finding the breath again, relaxing, focusing the gaze, and then let go. And then maybe back. And just spin around. Set that up on the other side. So now we've got the right leg forward, readjust the feet. We want to be stable, steady. Find the breath. Focus on which muscles are engaging, which muscles can relax. Okay, and then we'll do that twist on this side. So this time the right arm's going back, the left arm's going forward. Perhaps gazing over the back thumb. If you'd like, dropping the right arm on the left thigh, left hand up, gazing up at the thumb, letting go, let the breath move on its own. And then spin around again. On the top of the mat, take a breath, find the feet, find the alignment again. And then we'll move back to downward dog, the upside down V shape. However you want to get there. Okay. Now this time what we'll do, we're going to come into a similar shape. We'll take the right leg though, bring the right leg by the right wrist. And then with the left foot, we'll bring that so that the left instep is in line with the right heel. And then come up this way. So we've got the feet steady. You want both feet all the way on the ground. And then get the alignment. So spine up and down, shoulders over hips. Okay, we want the whole body in the same plane, parallel with the long edge of the mat. This shape is called Warrior 2. We're going to extend the arms. Try and keep crown of the skull over the tailbone, and then pull the fingertips away from each other. That may lower the shoulders a bit. So we're setting this up same way. We're using the stability of our foot placement and the alignment in a steady position, and then kind of relax by regulating the breath. Here, maybe focusing the gaze, like aiming the nose over across the front hand. Just call that the drishti, the gaze, what you're looking at. Your sight line. Okay, and then just let that settle. Just let it go. Notice how it feels. All right, and then what we'll do kind of a side stretch. We're going to keep the shoulders and the hips on the same plane and just extend and lengthen the right side of the torso. Take a few breaths here. Work on the stability. Get the breathing. Focus, and then drop it into how it feels. Okay, then let's straighten the front knee. Bring the right hand out. Stretch out. And then from here, we're still trying to keep shoulder, hips, and spine all in the same plane. We're extending. We're going to drop this right hand and then raise the left hand. We want the shoulders in line. You want to challenge your balance, maybe focus your gaze upward or at the left thumb. Okay, then we'll come out of that. Bring the both toes pointed in. Do a forward fold here while we're here. And then this is where, again, internally rotating the thigh bones. And that's going to open up the, what's called the sacroiliac joint a little bit. If you bring your hands to your hips, pull the crown of your head away from your tailbone, hinge forward at the waist. Got the space, maybe bring hands down to the ground. Let gravity stretch the back out. Back up. Okay, and then switch to the other side. So we're going to point the left toes in the direction opposite where we started. We're going to bend it into the left knee. Find the alignment again. Crown of the head generally over the tailbone. Shoulders generally over the hips. Try and keep everything in the same plane. Extend the arms. Stable, good alignment. Get the breath. Allow everything that you're not using to relax. Focus the gaze on this side. We're going to go ahead and do that side body stretch. Try and keep everything in the same plane. Straighten the bent knee. Left hand reaching out. And coming down to wherever it reaches. Doesn't have to go to the ground. Raise the right shoulder, stack the right shoulder over the left shoulder. And maybe gaze up at the right thumb. Back out of that. Back to the forward fold. You want to maybe find the hands behind the back. Pull the fists, the hands down towards the heels, maybe hinging the waist. Raise the hands here, folding forward. That knees come out of that. And then back to the top of the mat. Find the feet. Take a breath or two. And let's come down to a seat. Okay. Maybe stretch the legs out a little bit. So I like to extend the legs. I like to, and there's a reset between poses when I'm stretching my legs, rotating my ankles. And then so another way to stretch the back side of the body. Again, the first thing to do is get stable. When the body's stable, it relaxes better. So stretching is relaxing. So the muscles, stretching is lengthening. The opposite of that is contracting. The muscles are working, they're contracting. So if you want them to lengthen or stretch, try and get them to relax for you. And a good way to do that, of course, is to find the stability. Just kind of wiggle into that. Then we're going to get the alignment with the shoulders over the hips again. Kneecaps pointed up, toes pointed up, pointed toes towards the face. And by moving the ankles that way, you're already going to get a little bit of Kind of lengthening on the calves. And then from here, just maybe tuck the chin in a little bit. Try to keep the back straight. Just lean forward to the point where you start to feel stretching in the back of your legs. You don't have to grab your toes or anything like that. In fact, sometimes grabbing your toes, you're losing the stretch because you're using your shoulders. But try and keep it straight back. Just lean forward. Hold that for a few minutes. Notice where you feel the tightness. Breathe into that. Rotate the ankles. Maybe move to a butterfly. Bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees fall out. Straight back again. And then lean forward. Notice where you feel stretching here. Up out of that. It's another variation you can do. This kind of moves the stretch more into the hips. If you make a diamond shape with your legs and then bring your hands underneath your ankles, round here, we're going to round the back and maybe point the top of the head towards the feet. You may feel this a little differently in the back of the hips. That. Extend the legs again. Rotate the ankles. And let's try bringing one heel to the seat. Got the knee up. With the opposite elbow, we can wrap around the knee or bring the elbow outside of the knee. Then twist for the back. And when you're ready, doing something similar on the opposite side. That. Rotate the ankles. And then maybe we kind of get the front part of the legs. One way to get to that is to sit on the heels, tops of the feet on the mat, sit on the heels, and depending on where you're at, you can place your hands to help support your weight. If it's okay, maybe aligning the crown of the skull over the tailbone, sitting on the heels. Of course, if that's uncomfortable with the knees, please back out. Support your knees by using your hands. If you'd like to give it a try, maybe Walking the hands back a little bit. Okay, and then raising the knees. That'll stretch out the ankles. Lean forward. It's kind of a gentle calf stretch, extending one leg, rocking back and forth. The other side. Back to a tabletop. Generally, the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Like that. Wag my tail here. And then there's a kind of another thing we can do here. If you keep your elbows like generally locked, try to drop your rib cage out, moving your elbows, and then pull the spine up through and between the shoulder blades. So this is moving the rib cage and the shoulder blades. Stretch out the muscles between the shoulder blades to protract and retract the shoulders. That one other thing we can do, let's try with the right side. So bring the right foot forward. Oops. This is we'll do a hip flexor stretch. So right ankle generally under the right knee, rock back and forth a little bit. Kind of work out good placement. And if you'd like to slide the left knee back a little some and bring the top of the left foot onto the mat. You might feel a stretch on the inside of the left thigh. Kind of add on by lining the pelvis around the skull up again. Maybe dropping into that. Want it down on here. The left hand to the small of the back. Raise the right arm. And make this little back bend here. This is going to stretch out a muscle called the psoas. Have that. Wiggle that out. Hit the other side. Rocking back and forth. Scoot the right knee back a little bit. Brace up. And maybe right hand to swallow back and extend the left hand up. Do a back bend. Drop the hips. Breathe a few times. Okay, like that. And then knees wide, big toes together. We'll bring the seat back towards the heels. Extend the arms. Allow the forehead to come down towards the mat. Let the back stretch out. Back up to this tabletop shape. Come to a seat. Transition through the seat. Bring the shoulders in the back of the head. Mat. Soles of the feet down, knees pointed up. Let the Knees drape over to the right. It's a passive stretch. Up through center. Knees over to the left. One here. And then back and forth a few times. Just find a way that works for you so that it feels smooth. Just kind of smooth it out, whatever smooth means to you. Just a few times back and forth. Then go back to center, knees pointed up. We'll extend the left leg and grab the top of the right shin, pull the right shoulder, fraction the right knee up towards the right shoulder, make some circles here to move the top of the thigh bone around in the right hip socket. And then with the left hand outside of the right knee, drop the right hand, we'll use the left hand to guide the right knee over to the side. We're doing a twist. Allow the right hip to come up here. We're going to twist the back. You may feel stretching in the glute and the lower back. If you'd like to extend the right leg and maybe grab onto the outside of the right foot, and get a stretch of the hamstring here, and then with the right hand grabbing perhaps the left foot, looking over the right shoulder. Okay, we'll unwind from there. We'll come back to the spine on the mat, a supine position. Extend the right leg. We'll bring the left knee up to the left shoulder, move the top of the thigh around the hip socket. And then the twist, right hand outside of the left knee, the left hand on the ground, got the space, perhaps extending the left leg. Okay, unwind. Okay. All right. Find the center of the mat. Okay. And let's see. Hands alongside the body, palms facing down. We'll raise the legs. You have a bend in the knees if that works for you. Okay, soles of the feet pointed up at the ceiling, and just rotate the ankles. Okay, and then bring the heels together. And nice and slow. Lower the heels to the mat. Okay, and then once the heels rest on the mat, let the body flop out. Kind of transition into relaxation. But I'm going to sit up. But I invite everyone else to lay down on the mat, unless you'd be more comfortable sitting up. Sometimes I've got sinus issues, and it's easier for me to breathe if I'm sitting up. So if that works for you, please make yourself comfortable. If you've got a wall and you want to lean against the wall, we'll be here for a few moments. What we're looking for is not that the spine is perfectly straight, but that the body feels supported so that it can relax. So if you are sitting up, find a shape where you feel supported. If you're lying on your back, figure out an arrangement that feels comfortable and supported. The more surface area you have behind you and underneath you, the more support you have, and the more support you have, the less work the body has to do. And we did a few poses where balance might have been an issue. Okay, if you reflect back, with just the surface of the feet on the ground, and if you've got your whole back side of your body on the ground, it's a bigger surface area, you're more supported. You can't fall over if you're lying down as well. So your body's not going to be struggling to maintain balance. Rather than engaging the balance reflex, it's going to let those big muscles that do maintain balance, the muscles in your legs and your core and your back, it's going to give those muscles permission to let go. So notice, it's like how we started noticing the feet. Notice those spots on your body where you're in contact with the ground underneath you, or if you're leaning on a wall behind you. If your heels are in contact with the ground, lying down, notice the tactile sensation of where you're in actual contact with the ground. You're in contact with the ground with your calves and your backs of your legs. Notice how that feels, your seat, your middle back, your shoulders, back of your head perhaps. And as you're noticing that, notice how the body's responding to the support. It may be subtle. You may actually, be able to notice a difference, a noticeable difference. It may feel like a softening into the support or letting go. Whatever you're noticing, just let it happen on its own. Body's supported, stable. When that happens, it feels safe. Body feels safe. Regulate itself by adjusting the breathing. So without trying to change or modify the breathing, just check in for a moment. Notice the depth of the breath, the pacing of the breath. And then gather your attention and focus on hearing the sounds that are available to you wherever you're at. It might be air moving through an air vent. Maybe there's traffic outside. You might have dogs barking in the backyard. There might be people in the next room. I've got a refrigerator in the next room. I can hear the refrigerator humming. Just notice the sounds available to you. There might be multiple sounds. And notice how, if there are multiple sounds, you're able mentally to kind of separate them. They're distinct, have a different texture. Sound might have a different volume and also seem like it's coming from a different place in space. So just by listening and noticing the sounds, your mind's able to construct a map, the activity going on around you. As you're listening, and notice how that's working. Then, see if you can shift your attention away from those sounds and find the sound of your own breath. Let all the other sounds fall away in the background. You're not turning anything off or ignoring anything. Find the sound of your own breathing, the sound of the air moving into and out of your lungs, perhaps the sound of the air crossing your throat or moving through the inside of your nose or your mouth. And let that sound fill the whole space of your attention. Everything else falls away into the background. Tending to the sound of your own breath. Now, notice where that sound is happening. Where is that sound? Where is the sound of your breathing? Where is that sound located in space? It's inside. So focus your attention on the sensation inside where the sound is happening. It's perhaps how it feels in your throat as the air is crossing from the inside of your mouth or the inside of your lips. The sensation where the sound is happening. And then notice the sensation of the movement in your rib cage and your belly. Notice how it's the rising and relaxation of the rib cage and belly. It's making space inside the lungs for the air to move in and for the air to release. Notice how the movement feels. Just for a moment. And then let that go. Don't notice anything at all. Let your attention go just for a moment and see if you can notice where your attention goes. And then, with some intention, fill your lungs all the way up, full breath in, hold the air in the bottom of the lungs using your belly, and then squeeze all the old air out. Maybe do that one more time. And slowly work yourself back up to a seat if you're on your back. You're already sitting up, maybe roll the shoulders and the head around. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for supporting the Veterans Yoga Project. Thank you for remembering our veterans this November 11th. I personally like to read a poem called In Flanders Fields every November 11th. If you've never read it, I suggest taking a look at it. And again, thank you for supporting the Veterans Yoga Project.